Aloha and welcome to the screencast for Experience 49 Digits Part 1. Super excited about this because in this series of 6 screencasts we're going to build a full stack web application from scratch. Well, not really from scratch. We're going to use Meteor Application Template as our basis, which is going to make life a lot easier for us because it kind of provides the framework and structure for building a basic web application. So what we're going to do in this first video, the first section of it, is we're just going to focus on the landing page. And the landing page is super simple. It's got a nav bar at the top. It's got this thing in the middle with an image, and then overlaying these image is some crazy info about what we're going to do. And by the way, this app, even though it's pretty simple digits, it's also kind of sophisticated. So it supports multiple users. It allows you to provide information about a given entity, and then you can have this set of a sequence of timestamp notes also attached. So hopefully, if you understand this application and how it works, you'll be in a really good spot to start building your final project. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you need to do is find a picture to use for your cover image. Make sure it's about 1,000 pixels wide. So, for example, I found this picture on the internet, and make sure that the license is appropriate so you can actually reuse it. And then the second thing is to be, as you hopefully are, you're watching this screencast right now before you actually start to build it. I think at this point it's good to actually see how I do things. Take some notes as you watch me do it. Don't get in the habit though of just starting and stopping the video and typing, okay? Because if you do it that way, you're not really going to learn how to build an application. You're just going to learn how to copy what I'm doing on the screen. And that doesn't, in the real world, as soon as you start working on your project, you're not going to have that. So it's much better for your brain if you watch the video, maybe take some notes as you go along, but then just turn off the video and try to duplicate what I've done by yourself. That will really make it sink in, and at the end of the day, you'll learn a lot faster if you do that, okay? You do need to know how to branch and merge in GitHub Desktop, so watch that video if you haven't already. There's some Meteor, guide resources and other stuff in the readings that can be useful to you. Okay, so the first thing you need to do before you start the WAD is create a private repo using Meteor Application Template React as your template. So, we can go here. And I've already done this, okay, but you'll go here and then you'll view on GitHub, and then you'll use this template, and you'll click that green thing, and then you'll create the repository, and it should be named digits, and then you'll make it private, and then you don't need to include all the branches, doesn't really matter, and that's the way you'll make this your own digits, your own copy of Meteor Application Template React, calling it digits. Then you'll clone it down to your laptop, run Meteor npm install, and then Meteor npm run start to bring it up. Okay, so that's all kind of standard stuff. And then you'll also want to create an IntelliJ project called digits that points to your repo, make sure that ESLint is set up correctly by creating ESLint error. So in my case, it turns out that I couldn't call it digits. I had to call it digits F20, fall 20, because I'd already reused digits in a prior semester, and GitHub didn't really like me trying to reuse the repository name. So you'll call it digits. For this video, you're going to see digits F20. Now, I want to note that I am going to use the terminal inside of IntelliJ. And if you don't see that little terminal icon, you can go to plugins and then find terminal. Okay, and it's bundled, and you just have to enable this plugin. I don't remember whether when I talked about setting up IntelliJ, whether I told you guys explicitly to enable the terminal, but go ahead and enable that. There's here. I don't. There's this native terminal one, which is an optional one, and maybe you'll prefer that one. I don't. I just use the standard built-in terminal, and it works great for me. So if you don't have terminal, get that. And the reason being is that it's going to, it gives you, if you're running terminal inside IntelliJ, then when you're coding and it's refreshing the screen and there are errors, you'll see it right away. You won't, your shell window isn't kind of hidden away somewhere else. So I think it's better to do this. Now, when you open up the terminal, you'll see it sets itself to the root of your project. So this is my digits F20 project. It puts it in there. We're gonna have to go to the app directory, and then we can do npm meteor npm run start to get the application running. And while it's doing that, we can check about ESLint being set up correctly, and we can see here, yep, we get an ESLint error, so we know ESLint is running. It's very important. Okay, so now localhost 3000 has things, has the app running, and so we can go to localhost 3000, and here's Meteor Application Template React. Okay, I had logged in before as admin, so unfortunately it's showing that, but now we're back in the fresh state. Okay, so now we're ready to do the practice WOD, and actually I'm asking you guys to do this WOD twice. Obviously for this video I'll just do it once, but I'm going to want you to do it twice so that you can really experience, kind of all that there is to learn from this part of the application development process. Okay, so first things first, start your timer. So however you want to do it, I use this time app. And then we want to create a branch to hold your work. It's called landing page 1. Turns out that I already did this once before, and then I figured out a better way to do this video. So I've already created landing page 1, and all that means is that when I create this branch for this one, I'm just going to call it landing page 2. And it turns out since you're going to end up doing this twice, you'll create a branch called landing page 2 as well. And we'll publish the branch because, why not? Okay, all that means is that now that branch exists at GitHub as well as in your local environment, and of course eventually you're going to be publishing it, so we can just do it now. Okay, so yep, we've got our application running with Meteor npm run start. You can see it's at localhost, so everything's good. Take a look at the console to be sure there's no errors. Okay, what I mean by that is to open up the developer tools. Okay, this is the second thing that I think is very important to do, is to always have your DevTools window. Okay, so in Chrome, if you say View, Developer Tools, or JavaScript console, I mean, these are all going to go to various places in here, but I do a propeller Option J to open up the JavaScript console. And I like to just keep this open while I'm doing development so that if there are errors, I notice them right away. If you just keep this closed, then things might be going wrong and you don't even know that there's errors being displayed that can help you resolve what the problem is. The other important thing is that I've installed Meteor DevTools Evolved, okay, which is a Chrome extension. Meteor DevTools Evolved. Okay, so this is very important to have in your environment to make your life easier. And I did a little video about this, which you can go look at, but make sure you have that as well when you're starting up your development. So we're going to go to the console. There's no errors. That's good. If we go back into IntelliJ, we can see there's no errors here. So everything's fine, which is, of course, kind of what you expect, given that we're just using the template, right? So why would there be any errors? We'll get some errors, that's for sure, but not yet. Okay, so let's go back to see where we are. Let's go back to see where we are now. All right, so we've got it started. So we're going to edit. We want to make the title say digits. So edit main.html and navbar.jsx to say digits rather than meteor application template. That's so that we see digits in the navbar and we see digits in the tab. So let's first go to app client main.html, app.client.main.html. We're going to change this to be digits, and then, and you notice if we save this out, okay, by doing a propeller S, then we can see that Meteor picks up the change to our file system, rebuilds the system, and refreshes the window so that now you can see this is called digits up here. Okay, so that's some really nice feature of this Meteor application development environment is this hot reload. Okay, going back into navbar, here's our Meteor application template React. Call it digits again, and we save, and then we look up down here to see if when it refreshes. Okay, it's refreshed again, and we can go over here, and now we can see that we've got digits in the navbar. All right, so we've done that. Step 2. Add a background image. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add our background image to the landing page. And that means copying this image file that we have to app public images. Okay, so let's go to the Finder, and we'll propeller C that thing. And then we'll go back into IntelliJ, and we'll see public images, propeller V, to paste in digits header.jpg. So what Meteor does is when you're deploying your app, anything that you put in the public directory, including images, kind of creates a path in the URL to retrieve that file. So these are kind of public assets that you can store. And so we're gonna put that file there, and then we're going to, when we create our background image, we're going to reference it to display that background image. So we've done that. We've copied our image file. Now we're going to create a CSS class in app-client-style.css that specifies the background and background size properties as you've done previously. So hopefully, you're pros at this whole process by now. And we just have to put the style stuff in the right place. So we go to app-client-style.css, and we're going to create a class called digits-landing background, and then this is going to have one property called background, and it's going to be a URL with images digits header.jpg, and then we use this this kind of CSS boilerplate to get it to display the way we want, and then background size cover. So that's just stuff you learned about before, the prior modules about how to, standard kind of HTML, CSS stuff. Now I'm going to note that IntelliJ's marking an error. It's not an ESLint error. It's actually another inspector in IntelliJ which says, you know what, I cannot find this file. I don't know what you're talking about right here. Because it doesn't understand the Meteor convention that anything you put in the public directory when the system's actually running is going to be available. So this is a relative URL, and it's going to hopefully display just fine. It's just IntelliJ doesn't understand. So we could do it. We could ignore it. We could turn off that inspector. In this case, I'm just going to allow this error to exist. It's not an ESLint error, so we're not violating any of our standards. Okay, so we've created that. We've created the CSS class, and then we want to wrap the landing component return value with a div that specifies the CSS class, so that the middle section of the landing will have your image as a background. Okay, so in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the landing page, and we're going to say return div class name equals equals digits landing. No, it's cool. So it found that class and said, I bet I know what you want to do here. All right, and then we got to put another div on this side. And if we save it out and we refresh, okay, so the refresh is completed. You see it's star 5 or X5 now. You can go here, look at digits, and lo and behold, this is good. All right, we've got that image being displayed behind the text, just like we saw here. Okay. So let's play around a little bit. I think it's interesting to see what happens if we make some mistakes. So, for example, let's say we use class name. Does that change anything? Forget to title it. Okay, well, we get this thing here, ESLint. So we get an ESLint error saying unknown property class name. Use class name instead. That's pretty nice. Okay, what happens in our browser? Okay, well, we don't have that background image displayed at all. Plus, in our console, we get a warning, invalid DOM property class name. Did you mean class name? I don't know, man. Could an error message be any more descriptive than that? Pretty crazy, yeah? Most of the time, you don't get so much help fixing things. All right, so we can save that, and I'm sure it goes well. What happens if we did that? Okay, so we misspelled our class, didn't get that right. All right, well, now we don't get really any errors here, but if we go to Google Chrome, we see nothing happening, and in fact, it's unfortunate because even if you go to the elements, so we could use this to kind of find this region and say what's going on here. Okay, we see div class digits landing background, and there's not a lot to tell us that that particular CSS class just has no definition. I don't know. I'm not sure if we can look in here. I don't know how we'd actually figure out that we've misspelled that. But at any rate, we have misspelled it. So, that's another thing you got to worry about, is making sure that your CSS class names are spelled right. So we'll go back here. We refreshed really quick. Go here, and we've got that. Okay, so that's that. Let's now go back to our instructions. So we've got our landing page looking similar to this, which is good. Next thing is to update our landing page text. So we want to replace the text and images appearing in front of your image in the landing component. So we have this junk here, and we want to get to this here. So we want to use a grid with container, centered, and stackable properties, and specify that it has 3 columns. Okay, so if we want to do that, we go back to this landing page and we say, no, we're not going to use this. We are going to use container, centered, stackable. I don't think the order matters. And then columns equals 3. Okay. And once we've done that, we don't really need to have specify these widths, because we've said that there's 3 columns. And let's just go back here and see what else we have to do. Each grid column has text-aligned center and contains an icon, that's one of these, an H1 header, that's one of these, and an H3 header, which is the text beneath. Headers are inverted to make their font color white. Okay, so we have text-aligned center. So let's go back here. We'll say text-aligned center. And then, let's just get rid of this guy. Okay, so we have an icon. That was the first thing, all right? We have an icon. All right, but who knows what an icon is? I don't know what an icon is. So this is when you have to go to the documentation, semantic UI React. Okay, so we know we want to have an icon, and in fact, what we know is we want that icon. All right, but what are icons? Well, let's go to the documentation icon. We click here, and we see all these icons, and we can search. And if I look at this, I think that looks like a bunch of users. So let me just type in user and see what happens. Get a bunch of different users, and in fact, there we have. Okay, so there's our guy, users. So that's going to be the name field. Okay, so if we go to icon, you can see there's loading a name field, and so I say name equal, oops, users, and then size. I need a size. I need a size, and let's look at our size options. Size can be mini, tiny, small, large, big, huge, massive. Let's just try huge for grins. Okay, so icon size equals huge, name equals users. So let's save this out. Okay, and what happens when we go here? Okay, whoa, we got all sorts of crazy stuff happening. Let's go to console, and we see uncaught reference error, icon is not defined. Okay, so we don't see anything, showing up in our screen, but icon is not defined in landing.render, landing.jsx12. Okay, so landing.jsx12 is this here, and actually if we go look at this again, we see ESLint is actually telling us icon's not defined. So we can go here to define it, and then the little yellow squiggles the red squiggle goes away, and we can go back to here, and actually I think we now have to stop and refresh because we were in the debugger. And so now we actually see our icon guy showing up, but he's black, and he's supposed to be inverted, so we can say inverted, save that out. Okay, now it's white, that's good for this particular situation. Now we need to have this H1 header, whoopsie, sorry. This H1 header says multiple users. Okay, so how does header work? Header, you say, let's look at some examples. Headers as H1 should look like that. So let's just copy that, paste it in, but we want to call it, say, multiple users. And header, now I'm looking, header's not defined, so let's define it. And yeah, and then we don't really want this image anymore. And we do want an H3 for our next one, so I might as well just add that in there. And then if we go over here, okay, oh, and it's got to be inverted, but we're pretty close here. So let's go back, header as H1, and I can't type, inverted, let's see how that looks. Oh, that's looking gorgeous. Okay, so what actually do we want to say, though? What we want to say here is this address book enables any number of users to register. This address book allows any number of users to register and save their business contacts. and save their business contacts. You can only see the contacts you have created. You can only see the contacts you have created. Okay, now we know we need 3 of these. So you know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste propeller S to save, which pushes a refresh. And we go here. Okay, this is looking super good. It's looking almost exactly like this. We just don't have these 2 things. So we need to now search for another icon. That looks like a piece of paper. So let's go back to icon, paper. No. How about file? File, that works. File, alternate. Okay, so let's go back. And for the second one, the name is file alternate. And we want it to say contact details. Contact details. And then we want to say, for each contact, you can save their name, address, and phone number. For each contact, you can save, for each contact, you can save their name, address, and phone number. Whew. Whoops, doggone it, it's in the wrong place. Okay, so this goes here. Let's see how we're doing. Great. Okay, last one. Got to get that icon. What might that be? That looks kind of like a calendar thing. And it is. Calendar check. All right, so calendar check. And the title of this one is timestamped notes. Timestamped notes. And then each time you make contact with a contact, you can write a note that summarizes the conversation. Each time you make contact with a contact, you can write a note that summarizes the conversation. Jeez, who wrote this? This note is saved along with the timestamp with the contact. This note is saved along with a timestamp and the contact. All right, and there we go. Yeah, okay, so we've got this part done. Awesome. Now, update background color. So the goal here is to make the nav bar and the footer and anything else in the page the same color. Now, you can you can do this any old way you want. Well, there's not any old way to do it. The easiest way to do it is to pick one of Semantic UI's default theme colors. And I chose blue, but you could use red or yellow or green or whatever. Okay. And unfortunately, what you have to do is you have to find out what the hex value is for the default theme. Okay. And because we're going to need that hex value to get the background to be blue, and then we'll use the blue name for the theme to get the nav bar to be blue. So we have to know both blue and whatever that hex value is. So the way that it seems to me it's easiest to do this is just go into Node Modules and then go find Semantic UI, CSS, and then open the semantic.css. And then in here, search for blue or red or whatever color, black, whatever color you're looking for. And in this case, I find that the blue is this right here, this hex value. So I'm going to copy that. And then I don't need this anymore now that I've found that. Okay. And if we go to, okay, so I've copied that. Then in app.clientMain.html, add a style attribute to the body element to specify the background color property. So what we can do here is in app.main.html, we can say style equals background color, and then the value. Okay, if we save this out, and then we go to our digits, what we can see now, this is, I'll just erase this for a second so you can see what it looks like without that. But now we've got the background to be that color blue. Unfortunately, our nav bar is still black. Let me bring back the console because it's so important to see there are no errors, right? So now that we've done that, in the navbar.js, we just add the color equals blue to the menu element. So I'll copy that, and I'll go to navbar.jsx, and then in the menu element, which is right here, I will say color equals blue, right? So you might be asking yourself, why can't I just paste in that hex value? Well, let's go to the documentation and find menu, which is where? Here, menu. If we look at menu and we look at the color property, okay, we don't get to put in hex values. We only get to put in one of these colors. Incidentally, here are your color selections for your digits app. All right, so that's why we have to go through this rigmarole. We can't just put blue in the main.html, right? We can't say background color blue. It doesn't know what blue, well, it would be a blue. I guess it would be whatever the HTML blue is, but it wouldn't necessarily be the right blue for the semantic UI theme. All right. So now we've got, is it working? Yeah, so now we've got, I'll just show this what it looks like for a second, then bring it back. So we've got our blue, and then the footer component, we're noticing that it's black, and so we want to fix that. We just add color white to the div style object to make the footer text look good. So we go to footer, and then we say color white, and if we go here, take another look, perfection. Okay, so now our landing page looks just like what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so exit Meteor, invoke Meteor npm run lint. So we'll exit Meteor, Control C, Meteor npm run lint. Do we have any problems? Oh, we have problems. So let's go take a look. 2 problems. Okay, in landing.jsx, all right, image is defined but never used. Yikes. Let's get rid of that. And then more than one on line 31, there's more than one empty line. So propeller delete gets rid of an empty line. Okay, and then I'll save that out, and I'll Control P to rerun the last command. And great, okay? So it's really nice to have to run ESLint from the command line like this that just goes through all the files. Otherwise, I'd be like double clicking on every file to kind of see, is there any, ESLint errors in any of the files that I've touched. That's just, ridiculous, Mickey Mouse. So you really want to be able to run this at the end to make sure that you don't have any ESLint errors. And of course, I did have some. Finally, commit your work. So Control C to stop it. It's already stopped. Stop your timer. Note your time. 27 minutes. Yikes. commit and push my landing page branch. So I go here. I kind of check this out. These look like the files that I've actually changed. And then they do want me to use landing page mockup finished in 28 minutes. So landing page mockup finished in 28 minutes. And I'll commit to landing page 2, push to the origin. And bang. Okay. All right. Now, this was great. Okay, so we finished building the landing page for digits. But now I'm saying go back and do it again. Okay. Well, how do you get back to the starting point? And this is where the magic of Git really comes in handy, because if we want to go back to the beginning, all we actually have to do right now is just go back to the master branch. And if we switch back to the master branch, what that's doing locally is changing the contents of our digits directory to what it was at the point that we last touched the master branch. And remember, we've got the master branch all set up with the Meteor application template. And then before we started work, we made a branch called landing page. Well, you'll say landing page 1. I'm doing landing page 2 to make all our changes. So now we're right back to the way the Meteor application template React version. And in fact, if we said Meteor npm run start, okay, what we'll find after it builds, okay, localhost 3000. If we do refresh, there we are. We're right back in the beginning. Okay, so we're back at the beginning with master. So to do round 2, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to master to get back to the beginning, but then you're immediately going to create a new branch, right? Called landing page -2 or 3 or 4 or however many of them you're trying to do, right? And by making that branch each time, the great thing is if you want to get back, start over, you just switch back to the master branch and you're back at that kind of checkpoint. So it's super nice, I think. So do this once more. And I'm saying RX less than 20 minutes. That's pretty fast. But I do talk a lot during these things, so I think that slows me down. I try to get in the 25-minute range. I think that's pretty doable. And then you got to submit at the end. All right, so there you are, the first step towards building digits. Hope you liked it.